but I will bet you that there are Chinese Communist Party affiliated people in this room today.
Well, it seems that Americans have an easier time admitting our little Chinese infiltration problem more so than our government and media does. Which begs the question, why? Trade talks with the US were going well, until we sabotaged it. But it only took a foreign news outlet to blow the lid on what the CBC couldn't. Wow, does it not get better the deeper you look into Bill C-22? I really hope you enjoy being spied on. We'll take a look at what that means. And land acknowledgements are back. Well, in the one place you would have never expected it. My name is Ali Dango, and this is The Right Call. Like, share, subscribe, hype this video. Any interaction on this channel helps push the truth out and maybe someday break that CBC-induced coma that so many Canadians are under. And if you're tired of that same old media and government BS and finally want some common sense commentary, well, smash that subscribe button because you're in the right place. All right, so we got some important things to cover today, so stick around. You don't want to miss this. And let's begin with something that's fresh off the press. As a matter of fact, I saw this like 5 minutes ago. Breaking: Canada loses 18,000 jobs in April, which shoots our unemployment rate up to 6.9%. What a great way to start the day. But don't worry, it's probably not going to get worse considering, the CUSMA USMCA negotiation in July are definitely going to go well, right? Right, please? Keep in mind that the US unemployment rate right now stands at 4.3%. So it gives you a little bit of a comparison of the strength of both of our economies and how we're faring compared to our American neighbors. But again, don't let that little silly point get in the way of a good narrative. Speaking of a good narrative, it's only been a couple weeks since the Liberals stole a majority, and boy, have things gotten really weird real quick.
So the idea that this is going to be a kind of prudent government because it really is just spending everything that comes in and more.
We found that Indigenous Services Canada did not effectively implement, monitor, or assess the initiatives it committed to.
Just wondering if you were consulted on the Wealth Fund.
No. As the world is undergoing a rupture across several dimensions.
We see a future where Europe overtakes the US as the center of the world order.
Canada, the European Union, the United Kingdom, Australia, other countries share very firm convictions with those principles.
Those convictions being tyrannical rule, mass migration, the censorship of your own population, and the ever-centralization of the economy.
And we will work together to rebuild.
The Prime Minister said he wants to move at speeds never seen before and do things never done before. That's not Europe. Their growth is puny.
Of the facts, Europe's growth is horrible. If you wanted to move at breakneck speed, you would have to make a deal with the US.
Treasury Board President at the time, Vic Taves, who after you concluded your work with the UNHCR, called you, and I'm quoting from his words in the House of Commons, disgusting.
Well, at least someone said it.
The Retail Council of Canada has called retail crime a national crisis, with losses now approaching $10 billion annually across the grocery sector and growing.
Now, we must be doing fine, don't worry. Grocery theft, that's the sign of a thriving economy and perfectly normal population behavior.
Efforts to penalize Stellantis for failing to honor its employment guarantees were undermining the trade talks with the U.S.
It is Canada who is slow rolling this. We had a sectoral deal. The Dominic LeBlanc has said that they were trading term sheets associated with that. So if you are looking at today's relief package and wondering if this is a sign that Canada is preparing for the long game, I think it's a pretty good sign.
She was on the wrong show. She shouldn't be on CBC. Jeez, I'm worried for her job security. She might join the unemployment rate that is rising.
Report from Japan has many worried. The business news outlet Nikkei says Honda is indefinitely postponing plans to build an EV plant in Canada.
Crisis we have ever faced. And it still seems like, for 6 months on the MOU, for a year and a half since Trump was elected, Canada is just still talking about doing things.
The EI extension that's happening.
Yes.
That is the warning sign that we know that there's going to be problems coming.
Oh, and there will be problems coming. She got that right. And speaking of problems for the Liberals, the truth always finds a way to come out, because it turns out that the lack of a U.S. trade deal might not be due to the U.S. and could actually be completely self-inflicted. And of course, it took a foreign publication to blow the lid on this story. Politico is reporting that Melanie Joly killed Canada's trade deal with the United States. It wasn't Doug Ford with his silly ad. It definitely wasn't the tariff disputes and the terms of the agreements. Nope. It was when Melanie Joly threatened to sue Stellantis and claw back funds from General Motors, from GM, the US auto industry went berserk and rushed straight to the White House and begged Trump to get involved, which pushed the president to pull the plug on the entire deal, which was at the time described as imminent. We were this close from having a deal. And because of Melanie Joly playing this little vindictive game, well, the deal was pulled.
We will always fight for auto workers. We know that the American tariffs are illegal and unjustified. And my job and the job of the government is always to make sure that we have the utmost interests of Canadians in mind, and that's why we take our positions to make sure that we defend them.
Well, you're quite the defender, girl. Congratulations on that one. Now Canada's auto workers are suffering and paying the price. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. All of Canada is paying the price. And I was going to blame incompetency at first, but the more I look into it, the more it actually seems like negligence, or worse, deliberate. But don't worry, Mark Harney is here to save the day. This is what he had to say about the entire ordeal.
Any truth to the Politico reports on Minister Joly's comments on blowing up trade talks?
Did you really think he was going to say anything or admit anything? Come on now. He seems to have a lot to say, though, when it comes to blaming the US, but when the tables are turned, he's a little bit more mute. However, someone that wasn't mute in Ottawa yesterday was former US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And he was speaking at a conservative event. And he had the balls to expose what we've been saying now for quite a while, but our government refuses to acknowledge.
Tilt toward Beijing and now more recently toward Europe. In this era of geopolitical rivalry, with China being the threat that it is, with its capacity to deceive, with its ability to commercially influence and to buy, what would be your advice to Canadians about that threat and the direction that this government is going?
When we begin to talk about these leaders sort of like, oh, we're going to hedge with China, no, you're going to get your head handed to you. And they will do it slowly and with a smile, and you'll get a nice dinner, and they'll roll out the red carpet, and some of you will make a lot of money from it. They will bribe you until they no longer need you. Some of you would tell me, Mike, we own a facility in China. You own nothing. You are a squatter. And they will take it away from you the moment they think it's useful.
This, by the way, echoes what I've heard and seen firsthand in the private sector. It's a well-known thing that it is incredibly difficult to do business with China. Granted, it is a booming economy over there. However, the loyalty, the nationalistic aspect that they have is unwavering. They will always prioritize themselves and their peers over any foreign individuals. To give you an idea, the Chinese are well known for negotiating a deal. And you think the deal is being negotiated the same way you would here domestically, Canada, US, whatnot, in good faith. And you're going back and forth on the red line agreement, and you get to the final version, and you send it to them, they sign it, they send it back to you, and you just go about saying, well, it's the agreement we agreed upon, and you sign it without reading everything. Lo and behold, they added a little sneaky line in there that screws you over. They're known to do that. I'm not saying all the Chinese companies do this, but it's a well-known thing. They're sneaky, and they will play dirty. And I think Mike Pompeo definitely try to make the point right there.
Or Ottawa or Toronto. The Chinese Communist Party is hard at work inside the gates here, right where we're sitting today. I'll bet, can't see very much out there, but I will bet you that there are Chinese Communist Party affiliated people in this room today. And by the way, they look like me, like they're white Italian dudes, right? But they're working for this mission set, and they're not spies in the quintessential sense. They're in our university system.
The reason why I say we should definitely pay attention to what Mike Pompeo says here, okay? He was the former Secretary of State. He had access to the world's most advanced intelligence in the history of mankind. To give you a little bit of an idea of the sheer amount of intelligence that Mike Pompeo had access to, which probably led him to make comments like these based on facts. Look at the intelligence community in the United States. First of all, it comprises over 854,000 people with top secret clearance. Furthermore, people think, US intelligence, that's like the CIA. Dude, it's one of 18 organizations. You have the CIA right here, sure. Then you have the Bureau of Intelligence and Research, the Office of Naval Intelligence, the 16th Air Force, the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, the Defense Intelligence Agency. It goes on and on and on and on and on. But it doesn't take the apparatus of 18 intelligence agencies to figure that out. Our very own CSIS, our one lonely low intelligence agency, already did outline in a scalding report that China interferes and infiltrates our system. Here, CSIS reports outline how China targets Canadian politicians and business leaders. It's not just limited to politics. If you really want to infiltrate a country, you got to go through every strata of that community, of that civilization, right? Education, so universities, the schooling, the businesses, the finance sector, the security sector, the government sector, the energy sector, so on and so forth. Heck, even the medical sector. Remember that little leak from a certain place in Winnipeg that led to a certain thing happening, across the sea, which led to eventually a global issue? I'm specifically not mentioning certain words because you never know with these platforms what they're going to censor, but you get the point. So ask yourself, why doesn't our media cover any of this? Why doesn't our government address any of these issues? Could it be because it's already too late and the entire system has been infiltrated? Wouldn't a government that so boldly claims, elbows up, we don't need the United States or anyone else, we want to reclaim our independence, care to say, I don't know, ensure that other foreign adversaries don't subjugate us? But when you start looking at what they do, not what they say, or the lack of what they say, the picture gets really damning really quickly. So let's contrast this. We have a prime minister that is pushing more and more for deeper economic ties and trade deals with China, praising it as the future of Canada and how we don't need the US because China's there for us. Then our government goes on to create this RCMP/Chinese police cooperation deal, which by all accounts, is a counterintelligence danger that really does risk our sovereignty. I mean, why would you want our federal police force to cooperate with that of a country that is a dictatorship and has been known to spy on others? And then there's the entire ordeal, the scandal regarding Joe Tay. See, right here, security official report repression operations targeting conservative candidate Joe Tay, due to the fact that Joe Tay was known for his opposition to the Chinese government. Now, if only it was that, but they pushed it even further and made it way worse because the Chinese government put a bounty on the head of Joe Tay. So you think that the Canadian government would run to his rescue and support their own citizen from the interference, the political repression of a foreign regime. But lo and behold, that's not what happened, because we actually had a Liberal MP, a member of parliament, a person in government call for Joe Tay to be arrested and brought to a Chinese consulate in order to claim the bounty on his head. This actually prompted him to have to quit and resign in shame and not run for re-election in his riding. And then, of course, there's that time that floor crosser / traitor Michael Ma was caught at a Chinese event with loose ties to the CCP, honoring this beautiful CCP anthem. Or when he tried to run cover for China's treatment of the Uyghur people by shoving them in literal concentration camps.
You claim about forced labor in Shenzhen. Have you witnessed this yourself? Have you been there ever?
I've been to China many times.
Have you witnessed
since
forced labor in
1979?
Have you witnessed forced... Just a short answer. Have you witnessed forced labor in Shenzhen?
Do you believe there is forced labor in China?
I believe there are forced laborers all over the world.
What about China specifically?
Well, all over the world.
But China specifically?
Yeah. Sorry, I need to write.
Minister, you were the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yeah.
You're the Minister of Industry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe there is forced labor happening in China?
I've already stated my point of view on that. What I'm telling you now
what is your point of view?
And my point of view is we will always follow what the UN is saying. I'm not the Minister of Foreign Affairs anymore, and I'm convinced that Minister Anand can answer all your questions.
Or how we are allowing Chinese EVs into our country in spite of them being massive security risks, let alone the fact that it condones forced labor in China, violating our procurement rules. Or even when Chinese-born Member of Parliament Maggie Chi pushed to shut off all the cameras during a committee hearing and take everything into secrecy.
With that, I move to have the meeting in camera.
The meeting is in camera already. It is in camera. No? Public. Oh, sorry. It is in public.
And by the way, in case you didn't know, when they say in camera, it's actually Latin. It means in chambers, in private. So no transcript, no recording, no record, and whatever is discussed during the committee is secret, cannot be disclosed after by other attending members of the committee. And of course, let's not forget about the constant antagonization of our largest partner in both trade, security, and just overall our cultural cousin. I'm talking about the US, which so happens to be in a sort of Cold War right now with China for the world's hegemony. So ask yourself, why? Who does it serve? And finally, contrast that with our ever-growing authoritarianistic laws being pushed onto Canada, which oddly mimic a lot of the control and censorship that is exemplified by China. Asking those questions allows you to see clearly. But you're not the only one who wants to see clearly, because our government is pushing Bill C-22, which would allow them to spy on you. Literally, the dangerously vague Bill C-22 hence ceases unrestricted real-time access to your mobile devices and home electronics, letting them eavesdrop, track, and monitor your every move at the flip of a switch.
You talked about CSIS wanting to have real-time access. That's something I think the committee may want to ask CSIS about. Can you just for our reference and just for our analysts, can you tell us where you got that point, please, in 25 seconds or less?
Absolutely. It was mentioned during the technical briefing when the bill was tabled. It was mentioned for Bill C-2, and then it was mentioned again for Bill C-22. And I have a copy of the slide deck that includes the illustration if you'd like it.
Man, if you thought it was bad enough with C9, this just gets really bad. So C-22 is far more than just handing over your IP or contact information like the Minister of Security, Gun Grab Gary, claimed it was. Of course, he won't be truthful to your face. It's going to be very disingenuous. There should be a penalty for lying to people like that. There should be. There has to be. But anyways, what it can do is that it can secretly order your device's microphone to be activated to remotely eavesdrop inside your home on mere reasonable grounds to suspect. That means no court order, no warrant, simply reasonable ground to suspect that this person might be doing something wrong. Do you understand that that applies to all of us? We can all be made to believe that we are reasonably suspected of committing a crime. I mean, what? Nobody's sped on the highway before. Nobody, I don't know, is littered before. We've all committed a crime before.
These companies to provide the capabilities to turn on a remote microphone. Is that correct?
So where they talk about content, that's in terms of retention of data. But it does allow for the creation or the ordering of intercept capability. So that would be an intercept capability. And now you could potentially have an order that would require that capability. And as long as it didn't create a systemic vulnerability, yes, it could be implemented. And they would have to change their advertising.
Now, that kind of creates a bit of a conundrum, because what if it's a secret ministerial order?
So, true.
Yeah, because I forgot to mention, all this can be done in secret. That's right. The minister can order for you to be spied on in secret, and you have no recourse, no judicial review, no nothing. That's it. It's just total control for the government. And another thing that they want to do as well is put a backdoor into all devices, meaning that it allows the government to go inside your device and to read your text, to see your data, to look at your documents. And this was tried already in the UK. Again, why do we follow in their footsteps so much? Anyways, so for example, they forced Apple to put a backdoor entrance to crack effectively their encryption. The encryption is what's used to make all your data secret that nobody can read except for yourself. So they forced Apple to put a backdoor into their encryption of their iCloud service, right? That's what people use to back up their conversations, their devices, their documents into the Apple servers. It is incredibly secure. Apple's philosophy is data privacy and security. It is their core tenet. But regardless, so UK government forced them to put these vulnerabilities in place, and Apple pushed back hard. Instead of complying with the UK order, they decided to do the opposite. They said, screw it. We will not encrypt. We will not put data privacy security features on our products in the UK anymore. Like that, you cannot force us to build a backdoor. You cannot force us to destroy our security technology and weaken it. And they became very loud about it, very public. They made sure to broadcast that decision loud and proud in order for people to realize that they were losing access to major data privacy, exposing them to not only hackers, but obviously the government spying on them. And the backlash was intense. people rose up and pushed back against the government, which prompted the UK to actually back down and remove the obligation for Apple to give backdoor access or to unencrypt their data. So Apple and the people won. And let that be a lesson. This is why I do what I do. People message me all the time asking, how can I get involved? What should I do to fight back? How can we win? And I tell them, this is how you help. You fight back by being loud, by sharing information, by holding truth to power, by making sure that the truth spreads and that people are aware of what's going on. See, together we win. United, we succeed. Divided, we fall. And that's what the government's banking on us, to be completely in the dark, to be uneducated, to be clueless, to fight between one another instead of supporting one another. And that's how they do it. Because there's only one way to make sure we don't descend into tyranny, and it's to counter that manufactured fake narrative that they are pushing on us all the time. And speaking of fake narrative being pushed on us all the time, and today's crazy liberal take of the day, I take you to a place I never thought I would see a crazy liberal take. The conservative event called Canada Strong and Free in Ottawa.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. I hope you had a great day yesterday. I would like to begin by recognizing that we're meeting on the never surrendered homeland of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, a land of spirit and purity, of healing plants and sacred waters provided to the people by Creator since time immemorial. My name is Dr. Margot Burnell. I'm a medical oncologist from New Brunswick and the president of the Canadian Medical Association.
Before I even talk about any of what she just said, I just realized while looking at the podium, look at the little signs there. Why is there a Ukraine flag? There's another flag too, but like, why? Why? Anyways, that was embarrassing. Embarrassing. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Our history is one of a proud legacy of settlers who built this land from a wild, untamed, empty, frigid place to a thriving, prosperous, and proud nation. Sure, a couple legs were broken along the way, and it doesn't diminish any of those facts. However, let's also not erase history, or at least rewrite it, and forget that most of the land was uninhabited, and unlike every other civilization in the history of mankind that came before us, we attempted to go about it somewhat peacefully. We made deals. We worked alongside them. We got along with the inhabitants of the land. Whereas history is, of course, rife with much grimmer outcome. But regardless, why are we holding past settlers to today's standards? It's not only disingenuous as hell, but it's also impossible. So all we have today, effectively, is people that had nothing to do with the past on both sides of the coin, fighting over things that they can't change, or that doesn't affect them, or their parents, or their grandparents, or anyone that's alive today, really. And the fact that we're seeing this rhetoric at a conservative event, has me raising serious concerns. The only explanation I can give, the only way I can scapegoat this, the way Carney would scapegoat anything, is that this was the head of the far-left Canadian Medical Association, which is wildly known for their woke nonsense. But it still doesn't excuse why this person or her speech wasn't vetted before. I mean, what the hell? Now, if you've enjoyed this video and found some value in the reporting and you want to get involved, aside from sharing the message, liking, hyping, commenting, subscribing, if you want to go a step further and really help out, well, I have a Patreon. It's $8 a month, and all proceeds helps me put more time into this, more reporting, more research, and more content out. You can find the link in the description below, and any donation is greatly appreciated. You have no idea how much this means to me. And another thing that meant a lot to Carney and Premier Fréchette was the Airbus deal announced yesterday. But there's a huge issue that the media never cared to mention. If you want to know more about it, click right here. I break it down. This one is wild. But in the meantime, I'm going to go enjoy my weekend, everyone. So my name is Ellie Daniel. I'll see you guys next time.